Okay, so we're here fixing a Subaru AC compressor clutch, and you can hear this that it's definitely old and the bearing is definitely in need of replacement. So you can see this red dust as an indicator of that the bearings or something in there is scraping and leaving all that dust there. So we have our bearing here and we're about to replace it. So I'll show you guys how to do that. So first of all, I disconnected my negative battery terminal just to be safe, and then I took off my alternator, in which you want to keep your belts separate when you do that. So this is the left hand belt that came off the alternator, power steering pump, and crankcase there, or crankshaft, sorry. And then here's my other belt, and when you do that, I put my alternator way out there so I could have a little more room here. You see, the main goal is to take this bolt off here, and I don't have enough room because of this radiator, so we're gonna have to perform a bunch of acrobatics to do that. And so first, take the alternator off, disconnect this wiring harness because that's connected to the alternator right here. So you can't get it away without detaching that. And so you can actually take off this whole AC compressor without disconnecting these lines, which you'll need a bunch of fancy tools for, and a bunch of Freon AC nastiness might get on you. If you do that, you're going to need to have a bunch of safety equipment and decompress these lines, which is a lot more complicated than what I'm doing. So if you do it this route, you can take it off and just move the compressor, and these lines will bend a little bit, you can tell. I mean, this is a giant hose. You can move the hose this way. So you take 4 bolts off this. So you also have to take out your oil dip. Okay, so I finally got the AC compressor out of this holder, and it wasn't easy. You have to have a breaker bar, a bunch of ratchets and sockets, and universal joints. But there are going to be 4 of them, looking like this. And they're a major pain, and you gotta have a bunch of tools for them. But I just spray them down with some of this, so that you don't break them off. And then definitely put anti-seize back on, and then just break it loose. Now I have access to this. Make sure you have like long extensions and short extensions, everything. But yeah, that's it. So this part is equally tough. You gotta put a bunch of clamps and bolts, whatever you can do to keep these 2 parts together, and even some WD-40 or something in here to get this bolt to spin. For me, it was really tight, and then I finally got it out here with this 10mm, but that's another hard part. So I finally tamed this situation a little more. I got the clutch off, and it's severely bent and warped now, so I do have to buy a new one, but this was on here so good I had to wedge 3 hammers in between here to get it off, and these bolts just cross-threaded on here. Now I can't get them out, so I'm gonna have to get a new one of these. But I got my bearing in, and my awesome neighbor helped me, and so I got the snap ring on with these snap ring pliers. You gotta have those, and that green bearing is new, and you just gotta take this whole thing out. Oh boy, this is complicated, but you gotta take all this off with a grabber device, and then you have this, and then you bang the old bearing out this way, and you put it in between some 2x4s. You bang it out, and then you put the new one in this way with a socket, and make sure it's on the outside, and then feel in here with the gauge, and then keep banging if it's not flush. And then you have to get a wood block. Once you do that, put it on top of here and bang this back so the belt will be even on it. And see, no noise. So that was the problem. We fixed it. So I'll show you what happens when we put. So I just cracked open this air conditioning hose, and this is what happened. Good thing I didn't look. Trying to get my part at the junkyard. Okay, so this job is finally coming to a close, and I got the bolts off this part, and it wasn't easy. I had to punch them out, and you just don't want to cross shred these when you're putting them in here. It was super hard to get out. Definitely the hardest thing I've done on this whole project. I went to a junkyard to get this because it was a little warped, but I bent it back out with some blocks of wood like that, and I hit it with a hammer and a punch. You can see over there. But a little tip here is to put some anti-seize in here. I hope you can see, but there's like some fins in the middle, and I just took a brush like this, and I went in and put some anti-seize, copper anti-seize in like that. This stuff right here. And so when I go to put this in, if I ever have to take it out because it's warped and I have to rebend it, hopefully I won't, but then I can easily take it out because these two mating surfaces will come off better. And you can see I put some here, I put some everywhere on this ring. So now I'm gonna tap it down to these specs you'll see on the screen, and then I'm going to get this feeler gauge and take it out and see the length of it with some of these right here. So I'll show you that next. So last step here is to put your AC compressor back in and put your oil dipstick back in, and then remember to anti-seize all these bolts. So that one, this one down here, that one deep down in there, and then this one right here. Make sure you do that. Anti-seize it for sure. Put your alternator back in, and your belt's on here, and make sure you reconnect this wiring harness, this right here on the alternator, which I'll show you. I'll put this back in so I can show. Put the alternator right in, and then put this wiring harness in, and this one I need to flip it over, but this one just goes on the top right there, right there. This goes on there, but this would be flipped over a little more. And make sure you have everything tightened down on your alternator. Put the bolts in tensioner. I'm not going to say how to do that since you took it apart. And then start it up, you're good to go. Boom. Okay, so here's the startup of the Forester after the AC clutch repair with a new bearing in it. And also fixed the power steering a little bit, but the pump I think is still bad, but here it is. Sounds pretty good. That's just see, that's just the power steering pump right there. That's it.